Hi friends, today's topic is fluorimetry. Actually, fluorimetry and phosphorimetry. This fluorimetry, it is a phenomenon of emission of radiation when the molecules are excited by radiation at certain wavelengths. When certain molecules are excited by radiation at certain wavelengths, emission of radiation occurs. This is known as fluorescence. That is, when a molecule get a radiation of specific wavelength, they move to higher energy level from a lower energy level, right? That is a measurement of fluorescence intensity at a particular wavelength with the help of a filter fluorimeter as a spectrofluorimeter. Okay. So, what is fluorescence? What is fluorescence? When a beam of light is incident on certain substances, they emit visible light or radiation. This is known as fluorescence. Fluorescence starts immediately after the absorption of light and stop as soon as the incident light is cut off. This is the point. The emission of light stops as soon as the incident light is cut off. The substances showing this phenomena are known as fluorescent substances. Okay. So, fluorescence starts immediately after the absorption of light and stop as soon as the incident light is cut off. Time required for a compound to show fluorescence is 10 raised to minus 6 to minus 10 raised to minus 4 seconds. So, time required for a compound to show fluorescence is 10 raised to minus 6 to 10 raised to minus 4 seconds. Okay. What is phosphorescence? Phosphorescence is nothing but delayed type of fluorescence. Okay. This is a delayed type of fluorescence. In case of phosphorescence, when light radiation is incident on a certain substance, they emit light continuously even after the incident light is cut off. The other one, fluorescence, stops as soon as the incident light is cut off, but phosphorescence, they emit light continuously even after the incident light is cut off. Time required for a compound to show phosphorescence is about 10 raised to minus 4 to 20 seconds. It is more than that of fluorescence. Okay. So, phosphorescence, when light radiation is incident on certain substances, they emit light continuously even after the incident light is cut off. This type of delayed fluorescence is called phosphorescence, and substances showing phosphorescence are phosphorescent substance. What is the theory behind the fluorescence and phosphorescence? Actually, a molecule in electronic state in which all of the electrons are paired and are known as singlet state, right? You know the singlet state, all are paired and in opposite direction, right? When such molecule absorbs UV or visible radiation, one or more of the paired electron raised to an excited singlet state or excited triplet state. I will show the picture of excited singlet state and excited triplet state later. See the slide. A molecular electronic status in which all of the electrons are paired are called singlet state. In a singlet state, molecules are diamagnetic. Okay. Most of the molecule in the ground state are paired. When such a molecule absorbs UV or visible radiation, one or more of the paired electron raised to an excited single state or excited triple states. This is the picture of first one as ground singlet state. This is the ground singlet state. Then second one, the excited singlet state. See, they are not paired but in opposite direction itself. Spin is paired, right? But no net magnetic field here. The other one is diamagnetic, right? Then third one, triplet state. Spins are unpaired and in the same direction. Here also there is no net magnetic field. From the excited singlet state, one of the following phenomena occurs. Either fluorescence or phosphorescence or radiation-less processes such as vibration, relaxation, internal conversion, external conversion, inter-system crossing, etc. These words all you studied in your plus 2 classes, I think. Then, see this picture. This is the picture showing fluorescence. Light emitting at one source starts and stops when source stops. Okay, when the source stops, the fluorescence also stops. Fluorescence and chemical structure. What is the relation between this fluorescence and chemical structure? Some type of compound show more fluorescence, some type of compound show less fluorescence. What it is? Fluorescence is most commonly observed in compounds containing aromatic functional group. You know aromatic functional groups with a low energy. Aromatic functional group with a low energy will show fluorescence mostly. Most unsubstituted aromatic hydrocarbons show fluorescence. Quantum efficiency increases with the number of rings and degree of condensation. If there is two aromatic rings together, it will show more fluorescence. Okay. So, simple heterocyclic, do not, this is a heterocyclic, pyridine, furan, thiophene, pyrrole, etc. are heterocyclic compounds. This will not show fluorescence, only the closed aromatic rings show fluorescence. Here, in this heterocyclic compounds, the n-pi singlet quickly converts to the n-pi triplet and prevents fluorescence. Okay, this n-pi states are the lower energy state, right? This n-pi singlet quickly converts to the n-pi triplet low energy state and prevents fluorescence. Okay. Fusion of heterocyclic nucleus to benzene ring increases fluorescence. Here quinoline, isoquinoline, indoles are fusion of rings, right? This will show more fluorescence. Okay. Now, substitution on the benzene ring shift wavelength of absorbance maxima and corresponding changes in the fluorescence peaks. Actually, if this benzene ring has substitution on it, they will shift wavelength of absorbance maxima. So, they will change the fluorescence peaks. Fluorescence decreases with increasing atomic number of halogen. In the case of halogens, if atomic number increases, fluorescence will decrease. Okay, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, astatine, you know the halogens. So, fluorine, chlorine, if the atomic number decreases, increasing with the fluorine show maximum fluorescence less than chlorine, bromine, etc. So, as the atomic number increases, fluorescence decreases. Substitution of carboxylic acid or carboxylic group on aromatic ring inhibit fluorescence. Okay, what happens when substituted carboxylic acid or in aromatic ring? If there is a substitution, it decreases fluorescence or inhibit fluorescence. In effect, the plain aromatic rings will show more fluorescence, and aromatic rings with a heterocyclic also show more fluorescence. Heterocyclic rings alone will not show fluorescence. As the atomic number increases, the halogen decreases fluorescence, and in the if the substitution of aromatic ring also inhibit the fluorescence. Hope you are clear. Now, what happens when the structural rigidity increases? Fluorescence is favored in molecule with structural rigidity. More structural rigidity, more fluorescence. Organic chelating agents complexed with a metal ion increases fluorescence. So, there is organic chelating agents complexed with the metal ion, it will increases fluorescence. See the structure of fluorine and biphenyl, they are structurally rigid and they will show more fluorescence. And what happens when nature of molecules change? All the molecules cannot show the phenomenon of fluorescence. As you know, all the molecules cannot show the fluorescence. Only the molecules absorb UV or visible radiation can show this phenomenon. If a molecule absorbs UV or visible radiation, they will show fluorescence. Greater the absorbency of the molecule, the more intense is the fluorescence. If a molecule can absorb more of the UV light, more of the visible light, they will show more fluorescence. So, we are discussing what are the factors affecting fluorescence. First, we have discussed the structure relation, fluorescence and chemical structure. Okay. Then second, we have discussed nature of molecules. Okay. Then third, what the fluorescence and concentration relate. How the fluorescence and concentration of the compound. First, we will have discussed structural relation with fluorescence. Second, we have discussed of absorption of UV or visible light and compounds, and third we are discussing effect of concentration. Fluorescence is directly proportional to concentration. As the concentration increases, fluorescence also increases. Then another thing which will affect the fluorescence is adsorption. What is adsorption? AD. Extreme sensitivity of the method requires very dilute solution. Actually, very dilute solution. If it is the very dilute solution, we will get the correct value of fluorescence. Why? Adsorption of the fluorescent substances on the container wall creates serious problems and strong solution must be diluted. Okay. Fluorescent substances on the container wall creates serious problems and strong solution must be diluted. And what happens fluorescence when with light? Monochromatic light is essential for the excitation of fluorescence because the intensity will vary with the wavelength. So we have to provide monochromatic length for fluorescence occur. Then what happens with oxygen? The presence of oxygen may interfere in two ways: by direct oxidation of the fluorescent substance to the non-fluorescent and by quenching of fluorescence. Okay. So the fluorescent substance is reactive with oxidant and oxidized, and it will become non-fluorescent. That compound will become non-fluorescent. And something known as quenching, I will discuss the quenching later. By quenching of the fluorescence, the interference of fluorescence occur. And what will happen, this pH of the compound, how will affect the fluorescence? Alteration of the pH of the solution will have significant effect on fluorescence because fluorescence spectrum is different for ionized and unionized spectra. Okay. Relatively small changes in pH can sometimes cause substantial changes in the fluorescence intensity and spectral characteristics of fluorescence. For example, serotonin shows a shift in fluorescence emission maximum from 330 nanometer at neutral pH to 550 nanometer in strong acid without any change in the absorption spectrum. Okay. Now, the relation of intensity of incident light. Increase the intensity of light incident on sample increases fluorescent intensity. As the intensity of light increases, fluorescence also increases. The intensity of light depends upon light emitted from the lamp, excitation monochromators and excitation slit width. What all will affect? Excitation monochromators and excitation slit width and light emitted from the lamp. And how the path length will affect the fluorescence. The effective path length depends on both the excitation and emission slit width, and use of microcuvette does not reduce the fluorescence, and use of microcell may reduce interferences and increase the measured fluorescence. Okay. And I have already told you about quenching, or how the fluorescence affect with the quenching. What is this quenching? There is something known as chemical quenching. Here, decrease in the fluorescence intensity due to the factors like change in pH, presence of oxygen, halides and heavy metals. pH, what about pH? Aniline at pH 5 to 13 gives fluorescence, but at pH less than 5 and more than 13 does not exhibit fluorescence. So, pH is very important. Halides like chloride, bromide, iodide and electron withdrawing groups like NO2, COH, etc. leads to quenching. And heavy metals lead to quenching because of collision of triplet ground state. Okay, so hope you are clear with the quenching. Now, what is static quenching? This occurs due to complex formation. Example, caffeine reduces the fluorescence of riboflavin by complex formation. And collisional quenching, it reduces fluorescence by collision, where number of collisions increases, hence quenching also increases. Okay. Quenching is nothing but decrease in fluorescence intensity due to specific effect of constant of the solution due to concentration, pH, pressure of chemical substances, temperature, viscosity, etc. This is the summary of quenching. What? Decrease in fluorescence intensity due to specific effect of constants of solution and due to concentration, pH, pressure of chemical substances, temperature, viscosity, etc. And types of quenching are self-quenching, chemical quenching, static quenching and collision quenching. All we have discussed. Now, there is a picture showing self-quenching or concentration quenching. The x-axis there is concentration of fluorescing species, and y-axis there is fluorescence. As the concentration increases, fluorescence also increases. And in the second picture, in the x-axis concentration of fluorescing species and fluorescence in the y-axis, but here it is high concentration. Other in the low concentration, in the low concentration of the solution we will get the correct fluorescence value, but due to quenching in high concentration the fluorescence decreases and becomes static later. Okay. Deviation at a higher concentration can be attributed to self-quenching or self-absorption. Okay. Then you know all about fluorescence now, and you know the difference between fluorescence and phosphorescence. So, how this fluorescence is used in our biochemistry. to measure the substances, to measure the concentration of substances, and there are many applications of fluorimetry in our biochemistry. Later we will discuss the application of fluorimetry in this talk itself. So we have to know about fluorometer. Using this fluorescence, you know how what all will affect the fluorescence. Okay, what all will affect? pH, concentration, temperature. I didn't discuss, right? As the temperature increases, viscosity reduces, right? So as the viscosity reduces, fluorescence also reduces. So as the temperature increases, fluorescence will decrease. pH will affect, dissolved oxygen will affect, nature of molecule or structure of molecules will affect. All this affect the fluorescence, and how we feel it affect the fluorescence, you know now. Okay, now we will move to instrumentation of fluorimeter. You know the instrumentation of colorimeter and spectrophotometer already. So the same structure instrumentation is in the principle in the fluorescence also, fluorimeter also. So there will be a source of light, there will be a filter and monochromator, and there will be a sample cell and detectors later. Okay, what are the lamps we are using in the fluorimeter? This mercury arc lamp produces, you already learned in the spectrophotometer, I know, but we will discuss it again. The mercury arc lamp produces intense line spectrum above 350 nanometer. If you want spectrum above 350 nanometer, we will use mercury lamp. High pressure lamps give lines at 366, 405, 436, 546, 570, 76, 91, 734 nanometer. Low pressure lamps give additional radiation to 54 nanometer. And the mercury arc lamp produce intense line spectrum above 350 nanometer. Okay. And what is xenon arc lamp? Actually, this xenon arc lamp intense radiation by passage of current through an atmosphere of xenon. In xenon arc lamp, intense radiation by passage of current through an atmosphere of xenon. Spectrum is continuous over the range between over 250 to 600 nanometer and peak intensity about 470 nanometer. What is tunable dye lasers? Pulsed nitrogen laser as the primary source, and radiation in the range between 360 to 650 nanometer is produced. Xenon arc lamp produces the spectra between 250 and 600 nanometer, and more than 350 mercury lamp, and tunable dye lasers 360 to 650 nanometer. Okay. And filters and monochromators you already learned in colorimetry and spectrophotometry. Filters, primary filters and secondary filters are there. What is primary filter? It absorbs visible light and transmit UV light. And what is secondary filter? It absorbs UV radiation and transmit visible light. Okay, two types of filters. And you already learned the monochromators in colorimetry. Excitation monochromators are there, emission monochromators are there. In excitation monochromators isolate only the radiation which is absorbed by the molecule, and emission monochromators isolate only the radiation emitted by the molecule. And about detectors, there are three types of detectors: photovoltaic cell, phototube, and photomultiplier tubes. Among this, photomultiplier tubes are best and accurate. We will learn about photomultiplier tube or something. Multiplication of photoelectrons. This photomultiplier tube, multiplication of photoelectrons by secondary emission of radiation, and a photocathode and series of diodes are used. Each cathode is maintained at 75 to 100 watt higher than the preceding one, and overall amplification is 10 raised to 6 is obtained. Overall amplification of 10 raised to 6. So it will be very accurate at best. More than that, phototube and photovoltaic cell, it has a multiplication capacity. Okay, there will be a cathode and diodes. Okay. And what about tungsten lamp? You know the tungsten lamp, intensity of the lamp is low. If excitation is done in the visible region, this lamp is used and does not offer UV radiation. And what we will use sample to collect the sample. To put the sample, we will use the cuvette, right? I've already shown the cuvette in your classes. In your live classes, I have shown this cuvettes in colorimeter and spectrophotometer. The picture you can see the cuvette. The majority of fluorescence assays are carried out in solution. Cylindrical or rectangular cells fabricated out of silica or glass is used. Path length is usually 10 mm or 1 cm, right? All the surfaces of the sample holder are polished in fluorimetry. To show the fluorescent, we have to polish it with fluorimetry, right? What is the length, path length? 10 millimeter or 1 centimeter. What it is made up of? Silica, okay, or glass. There are two types of fluorimeter: single beam fluorimeter and double beam fluorimeter. Okay, what is the single beam fluorimeter? Tungsten lamp as source of light. As usual, there is a tungsten lamp, but the primary filter absorb visible radiation and transmit UV radiation. Okay, then this emitted radiation measured at 90 degree by secondary filter, and secondary filter absorbs UV radiation and transmits visible radiation. Okay, you hope you understand. There will be a light source like tungsten lamp. This will pass through the filter. This filter absorbs visible radiation and emit UV radiation. Then emitted radiation will measure at 90 degree by secondary filter. Then secondary filter absorb UV radiation, transmit visible radiation in single beam fluorimeter. Okay, since in single beam fluorimeter we have to measure the sample first, then reference the again. Okay, we can't measure sample and reference together, never. Okay, so what are the advantages of this single beam fluorimeter? Simple in construction, easy to use, economical, etc. What are the disadvantages? It is not possible to use reference solution and sample solution at a time. Rapid scanning to obtain excitation and emission spectrum of the compound is not possible. Okay, what is double beam fluorimeter? We can use the sample and reference together, and together we can measure. How it will work? Similar to single beam instrument itself, two incident beams from light source pass through primary filters separately and fall on either sample or reference solution. The emitted radiation from sample or reference pass separately through secondary filter. Okay, what are the advantages? Sample and reference solution can be analyzed simultaneously. Disadvantage: rapid scanning is not possible due to use of filters. General layout of fluorimeter. This is the summary. There will be a power supply source, then there will be a primary filter, sample cell, slit, secondary filter, detector, and data processor. And how, for what purpose this fluorimeter is used, and that is applications of fluorimetry. Determination of inorganic substances, determination of ruthenium ions in presence of other platinum metals, determination of aluminum in alloys, determination of boron in steel by complex formed with benzoin, and estimation of cadmium with the 2,2-hydroxy-phenyl benzoxazole in presence of tartrate. And there is nuclear research, field determination of uranium salts, and fluorescent indicators, like mainly used in acid based titration. Example: eosin is colorless in green, fluorescence colorless green, quinine sulfate blue, violet, and acridine green, violet, etc. In fluorometric reagent, you don't read it you just read the headings only. Nuclear research for as fluorescent indicators and as fluorometric reagent, and for organic analysis, qualitative and quantitative analysis of organic aromatic compounds, because aromatic compounds show fluorescence. Okay, present in cigarette smoke, air pollutants, automobile exhaust, etc. we can measure. If a cigarette is got, we have to cigarettes in the cigarette smoke or air pollutants, we can measure the how much aromatic compounds are there as quantitatively or qualitatively. For this purpose we are using fluorometer. Then pharmaceutical analysis, we will use this fluorescence, how much hydrocortisone, okay, how much nicotinamide, for that purposes. And liquid chromatography, fluorescence is an important method of determining compounds as they appear at the end of chromatogram or capillary electrophoresis column. So for liquid chromatography we are using fluorescence, and determination of vitamin B1, B1 and B12 we are using fluorometry.